You are listening to the Mad Music Marketing Minutes podcast with your host, Billy Gryzak. Brought to you by MusicMarketingMind.com. Personal music career support services. The show starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mad Music Marketing Minutes podcast. I'm so happy you're here today. And you know what? You're going to be happy and glad that you joined us today. You're going to be so happy that you pressed play, that you pressed download, that you got the show wherever it is you listen to it today. It's going to be awesome. I've been hoping, praying, and just waiting for the day when I could get this guest on today. And I don't want to talk too much, because as you all know, I have a habit of talking too much. So I'm going to get started right away with our guest today, Tom Jackson. And say hello, Tom.
Hello, Tom.
Great. And for folks that may not know who you are, and honestly, if they don't know who you are, they need to take notes and listen to the show over and over again. Can you tell us who you are, what you do, and, pretty much whatever you want to say about yourself?
Well, I am a live music producer, live in Nashville. And I might be able to tell you what I'm not. A lot of people would say I'm a performance coach. I'm not. A choreographer. I'm not. A dance instructor. I'm not. A vocal coach. I'm not. What I do is what a producer in the studio does with a record, I do with your show. And so you take somebody in the rehearsal. This is my everyday job. You take somebody in the rehearsal room that has a stage or an area to set up like you would on stage. And we go into that room and we build a show from beginning to end, creating moments that'll going to make a massive difference in your show. And so that's what I do. I'm a live music producer. Two other little things I do, not little, but I'm a teacher. I teach at music conferences around the world, at colleges on the weekends when like somewhere like Berkeley or somebody will call me up and say, "Can you come and do 2-3 days?" And then I also help organizations who are charities and artists hook up for tour support. Those are my side jobs. Those are, by the way, because I do the music performance stuff. But those things are significant in my life and actually help quite a few artists that way too.
Fantastic. And you're also an author as well.
Well, yeah, I wrote a book, Tom Jackson's Live Music Method. It's being used in a lot of schools, and this thing that I do is a method. And I know that kind of freaks some musicians out who want to be spontaneous, but actually what it does is if you understand the rules of what happens on the stage, actually gives you freedom to be more spontaneous. Instead of winging it, you learn to be spontaneous. And there's a big difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you've worked with a lot of people that I'm assuming my listeners and followers might be familiar with. Do you mind mentioning a few? Is that cool?
I'm allowed to. Some of them don't want me to.
I know, but there's a couple that you put on your website. I'm sure it's okay.
I am. The band Perry, Taylor Swift, Jars of Clay. How about that? And probably another 100 signed acts.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, great. So we kind of have an idea, who you are and what you do. The other day I was having a conversation. Actually, I was speaking down in Chicago, and your name came up because I had mentioned that you had called right before the engagement. So you actually were part of my presentation. It was great. And I best described you in my ideas. I call you like a live music director. Like you do what film directors do, for live music. I don't know if you like that term or not. That was what I called you.
No, it's hard to define. That's wwhy people always think, I'm a performance coach or a choreographer, but that's not it. It's looking at the whole picture. Yeah.
It's real. One of the things that we focus on a lot on the show is different ways people can, market themselves to sell more merchandise or get more fans or whatever it takes. Basically, just bring the people in and have them be part of your tribe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it seems to me that some bands are kind of getting the social media thing, and some bands, go out and they do whatever promotional things they think they should do. The ones that get it, you know what I mean? But even the ones that get it, once they get on stage, it's kind of like they forget that they're still on stage marketing themselves,
100% right.
And
in fact, I think the best marketing tool on the planet is when you're in the building with somebody, and then those people go out with word of mouth. And the beauty of today is word of mouth is, those people walk out instead of just telling their friends. Now their 3 friends that they're with, they now tell 3,000 friends that they're online with about you. It's the best marketing tool on the planet, and to me, and to make an impression. And the question is, what kind of impression are you going to make? One that's awesome, or one that people are going to forget you 20 minutes after the show's over? Or on the other side of the coin, we've all gone to shows where afterwards we've got, whoa, my gosh, I'll never go see that artist again.
Absolutely. In fact, I just started going out to see live music recently again in the last couple of years. I was literally, working so much I didn't have a lot of opportunity to see other artists, And recently, I've been going out to see what bands, are doing and see what the local scenes are where I live, or the scenes where I'm touring, And I saw a perfect example, 2 different bands. One band had a packed house, and literally the one guitar player never took his eyes off of his fingers the entire night, okay? The other guy looked like he was bored or angry at the band the whole time, and the lead singer actually had a music stand in front of like his face, so you couldn't even see him, and he was like reading the words through the whole show. I mean, it was I didn't know what I was watching. I was like, wow,
mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's just like, wow. And they had a packed house, and I watched this packed house slowly leave by the middle of the night, when it was just just a smattering of people. And and there they are. They're up there. When you talk to them after this, they're blaming the economy. Yeah, people got to leave early because of the drinking laws or the economy or whatever. They just don't understand what's going on. I mean, do you encounter that a lot too?
Oh, I encounter it virtually every day. On a bigger picture, in the sense of that's the microcosm of what I experienced in Starbucks. I tell this in my book. There was a guy, I was standing in line I live outside Nashville and Franklin, and there's this Starbucks at Cool Springs, which is just, right next to it. And it's the second busiest Starbucks in the Southeast. And, so you're standing in line, you got 15 deep, and you hear conversations going on around you. The guy in front of me was talking to another guy, and I heard him mentioning his band, because there's a lot of musicians in Franklin, Tennessee, and Nashville. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I know that band, because their record company and their manager, and even one of the wives had mentioned to me, that we need to work with him and his band. Well, he was telling the guy about his new record. This is a sophomore record. And then, he finished the conversation, and, you turn back around because you're kind of just looking around as you're in line. And I said, dude, my name's Tom, and I heard your conversation, and I've been talking to your manager and, your label about working with you on your show. There was an awkward pause. He backed up, he folded his arms, and he said this to me. Dude, what are you talking about? Our show rocks. Awkward pause. I'm like, oh gosh. So I kind of danced around it. The good news is I didn't need his work. I don't need his work, so I can tell people the truth. And if that makes any sense, I don't need to massage them so I can get the gig. So I just said, listen, your manager came to me, or your label. In fact, one of the guys' wives in the band, and he was indignant, and we never worked. And 2 years later, I walked back into that Starbucks, and guess who's serving coffee?
Okay, that is now my new favorite Tom Jackson story.
And you know what? You have no idea how badly I didn't. I wanted to say, dude, you rock.
Wow. I'll tell you what my former favorite Tom Jackson story was. I don't remember what artist it was, but I remember listening to you on another show, and I remember you talking about working with someone and the band didn't understand, or the manager, you'll probably know who this is, didn't understand why they needed you because the band already knew how to play all the songs.
There you go.
And, and so I'm just like, wow,
I could insert about 30 names there.
Well, it was one of your biggies, I think, at the time.
They rehearse in circles, or they go into a rehearsal room and for 2 or 3 days and go through the songs, and then they go out and wing it. That is not the way to do it. The way to do it, now this is my method, and this is the overall look of this. First is, it's like building a house. The first thing you need when you build a house is a plan, architecture. You got to know what kind of house you're building. You got to know how big it is, what materials you're going to put in it. You've got to get what I call a vision for your show. Instead of that, where our songs go, why they go there, not just 20 minutes before the show, people get around and go, okay, let's put this first. And we put out a quote unquote set list. Now, this is the kind of thing where you actually, you get a vision for how the audience is going to respond to each song in the show. And you get a vision. There's a saying, without vision, the people perish. Well, I'm going to change that and say, without vision, your show's going to be average at best. Usually it's going to be mediocre. So the first thing you need to do is get a vision. The second thing in building a house is you got to lay a cool foundation. Well, this is one of the things, like you just mentioned, the guitar player never took his eyes off his fingers. The truth is, the most attractive thing about anybody on the planet is charisma. And charisma is not looking at your fingers. And I don't mean everyone has to jump around the stage and act wild and act. In fact, there's no acting involved here. It's a matter of feeling the music, and it's understanding the concept of that audiences are ignorant when it comes to music. They're not sitting there going, ooh, Mixolydian scale on that turnaround. I love that. No, but how many times have you ever been to a show where you've seen somebody on stage that is so nervous or not in control that you actually start praying for them? Like, Lord, help them, help them. And really what you're doing is you're praying for yourself because you came to enjoy yourself. You didn't go there to have become a nervous wreck watching another guy on stage. So when you see people who are not confident, not in control, do not understand the concept of giving to your audience or taking risks or developing authority and charisma on stage, that human nature thing that we do understand. Everybody on the planet understands when someone's confident and in control. Every audience that sees somebody like that, they relax. They know their role, which is respond to what's happening on stage. But when you're winging it on stage or making it up or just simply nervous as heck and hoping the audience likes you, there's no way they're going to be paying as much attention to music as they should, because they're paying attention to you, the person on stage. You're preoccupied. It's what I call emotional misdirection. So the second thing I deal with is the foundational stuff. I have to deal with the artist at overcoming stage fright, developing confidence, charisma, authority on stage, giving them places in the show to take risks so they can grow. So that's the second part. The third part I deal with when I work with an artist is what I call the technical skills. If you build a house, you need materials, tools, and skill to put the house up. I mean, you need to have the walls. You got to put the physical house up. Well, it's the same thing with your show. You've got to be able to put together a creative show. Well, you don't have to, but I recommend it because let me ask you this. I'm talking to the people now, Billy. Do all your songs sound the same? And everyone out there is going, well, no way. We do a 45-minute hour set. Our songs change all the time. I'm playing a Strat on one song, a Les Paul on another, flanging here. Drummers are, we're doing a swing. We're rocking on another. Lyrical content's different. Melodies, everything's different. So my question then is, if your songs don't sound the same, why do they look the same? Mm-hmm. Because they do. You watch a band, and after 2 songs, they do the same thing from the same place on stage over and over and over again because they don't know what they're doing. So they make it up as they go. And I realize that, you want to be spontaneous, but spontaneity comes out of form. Form, you need some sort of form. And then when we work on a show together, we create space for spontaneity. But there's a huge, huge difference between spontaneity and winging it. And most people listening to this wing it on stage. And when they find something that works, because they played for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, they keep it. They do it over again in their show because they've learned on stage that works. Here's the problem with that. First of all, I could save you if you played for 20 years, I could have saved you 18. Second of all, you're also learning bad habits. And the hardest thing I have to do when I go into rehearsal hall is break people of bad habits. Because they're sending nonverbal signals physically from stage to tell an audience something, and they don't even know they're sending those signals. But they've developed them over the years, these habits. It's like when you walk up to a pretty girl or a guy walks, vice versa, and the first thing they do is fold their arms and look down. Their nonverbal signal, this is obvious, is I'm not interested. Well, we send those kind of signals. I don't mean folding, but I mean we do things physically from the stage, from the wrong part of the stage, that send signals to our audience, and their audience is confused. So Allah, no wonder we don't sell much merchandise. No, Allah, why don't we get paid more? Because we are sending the wrong signals. And then the last thing, after building, a creative. In fact, what we're trying to do is
Tom, hold on a second. When you said the last thing, right after you said that, I had a dropout. So if you could just start over where you say, and the last thing, and just go on. Sorry about that.
Well, and the last thing, before I go on to the last thing, though, is what we want to do is keep the integrity of the song. We want to keep the integrity of the song visually with what we do with our bodies. A lot of people aren't comfortable with their bodies. And I don't mean you have to dance. That's goofy. Rock musicians dancing it's not right. Country musicians dance, it's not right. Whatever musician you're, unless you're a dance artist. But what you want to do is keep the integrity of the song. So here's an analogy. If you were playing tonight, Billy, and I was there, and you said, Tom, listen, come to the show tonight. I need someone to run lights. And I'm like, well, I don't know your songs. And you would say, no, it's really, really easy. This club has 3 buttons. And you hit this big red button, and you hit that red button, push it down. All these lights kind of explode, and they move around, and it's really exciting. So that's the red button. And then next to it, there's a green button where the lights pulse, kind of groove, kind of mid-tempo type stuff. So all you got to do is hit the green button when that kind of song comes on. And then there's the blue button where it's moody, smoke comes up from the ground. It's intimate. So the question is this. Everyone listening to my voice could run those lights because we know when the song is rocking, we're not going to hit the blue button. We know in a ballad, we're not going to hit the red button. We keep the integrity of the song with our lights, but we don't keep the integrity of the song with what we do on stage or how we do it. And it's a mistake to the audience's eye because, and this goes into merch and everything, huge. Most of the people listening to my voice are dating their audience. They're not married to their audience. And what I mean by that is this. Most of the people don't know who you are. Now, sure, you might have some hardcore fans that are in the front, but that you've already got fans there. You're trying to make the fans the people that don't know you. Like that group you were saying earlier, started with a packed house. They should have ended with a packed house, and a standing O is what they should have ended with.
Right on.
And a bunch of email names and giveaways and on and on and on. But but they didn't because they don't know what they're doing. So you're right, they blame it on the audience or something, but really it's on their shoulders. So the key here is to keep the integrity of the song visually on stage with what you're doing. The reason you change from a Les Paul to a Telly is because the song is screaming for it. It's like, oh, no, that's the tone that says what it needs to say. Why you sing really soft and melodic with a lot of breath on one song, and while you let it rip on another, it's because the song calls for it. Well, it's the same thing visually. And communication is 55% what people see with their eyes, 30% tone or emotion, 15% the words. So let me ask you this. If you don't know the audience doesn't know you, you're dating them, and after 2 or 3 songs, your songs start sounding the same to them because they all look the same, because we hear with our eyes, particularly live. So after 3 songs, we know the songs from stage are different, but to the audience, they're not. They're not going, oh, he's playing a Les Paul now. Yeah, the 3 guitar players in the audience are, but they're not going to buy your CD anyways or your merch because they're broke. So you got to get to the person who's the normal concert goer, the person that comes normally to listen to music. And so long story short here, technical skills on stage to create a very creative, interesting show. Your songs don't sound the same. They shouldn't look the same. And then the last one, this is the last one, and that is now you pour your personality into the show. You move into the house. The house has been built. You move into the house. You put your furniture in, your music, your books, color it the way you want to do, because that's the idea of a great show is people come to see people, not just hear music. So how do you develop your own personality? Well, the way I do it is most people here listening to this probably, and I'm going to guess, know how to write songs. And there's a form to songs. And there's a length to songs, meaning we could go through the intro. Here's the form: intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Now, are there exceptions? Of course there are, but let's just stick with the rules for now. And the song should be 3.5 minutes because most of the people listening to this podcast have thought in the back, oh, how do I get on radio? Maybe this could be a radio song. And radio calls for that kind of format, generally speaking. Again, there are exceptions, but let's just stick with the rules. So 3.5 minutes. Well, what happens is a lot of people go out and play songs the way they're recorded, and it's a big mistake. Because what you're doing is leaving so many potential moments on the table, leaving them out of the show, that the audience will not experience those moments that are waiting to be cracked open inside your songs. Let me give you an example. The Simpsons is a 30-minute sitcom on TV. Let's equate that with a 3.5-minute song on radio. Same thing. 3.5-minute song on radio, 30-minute sitcom. Actually, it's 22 minutes and 8 minutes of commercials, but there it is. Well, now, 2 or 3 years ago, The Simpsons did a movie. If you were a Simpsons fan and went into that movie theater and they would have played 2 or 3 of those sitcoms, 22 minutes each, back to back, how would you have felt? Ripped off. Why? Because you can experience that at home in your PJs watching TV. You go to a movie theater for a different experience, just like someone goes to a concert for a different experience than the radio. So how do you make a 22-minute sitcom into a movie? First question is, how long should a movie be?
Right.
Well, so the truth is people go 90 minutes. I ask this at all my conferences, 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. No, the right answer is long as it works. That's how long a movie should be. We've been in 90-minute movies that are too long, and we've been in 2.5-hour movies that you want more of.
Absolutely.
Yep. So we do the same thing with our songs. We take a 3.5-minute song and we develop the moments inside. We do 2 things, both to create a movie and to create moments in a show, we develop themes and characters. Themes are the things that are going on inside the song, musically, all these different kind of themes, so that we can create moments out of them, because we don't have time to develop those. I'll give you a simple example. I'll give you two. Intro on record is usually one pass, we're into the song. Why? Because if we develop a long intro on radio, people click the channel and move on to the next channel. They won't listen. But live intros are exactly that. They introduce the song. They can be the most creative part about the song in some ways. Awesome development of a cool riff. There's just a whole bunch of ways to develop cool intros. Let's take solos. On record, you might have a sax, guitar, whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is, solo, and you do one pass. Because, again, on radio, you can't get away with developing or stretching solos. But live, you can. In fact, you can get really creative. If you had two guitar players, you could trade off licks. There's all kinds of things to develop those themes that are already in the song. You're not talking about changing the song. You're talking about milking it out. There's cool background vocals that if you soloed them in the studio, you'd hear some awesome background vocals that go by way too quickly for people to notice listening in their car on the radio. But live, we could develop that into a complete awesome harmony vocal moment. So you develop the themes, which allows then you to pour your character, who you are, into the show. You develop an audience participation thing that allows your personality to come out. Doesn't have to be loud. You could have a subtle sense of humor. You develop these different themes that allow your personality to come out, your serious part. If you have something to say to the planet or to the people, there's a time to create a moment to do that. And here's going back to this whole thing of where you're at, of marketing. This is where, if you create moments in your show instead of sing songs, your merchandise will double. And now, I hate to say the numbers with some of the artists that I've worked with, because people listening to this are going to say, oh, you're full of crap. But I'm going to say it.
Okay.
One artist, one of the probably top 5 artists in the world, her merch went up 600%. 600% when we spent 5 days working on moments. We created some cool drum moments. There's no drums in her show, but we all of a sudden, we have some drum things going on, and this is way before Imagine Dragons. We developed some vocal moments, and she wasn't known as a vocalist, but she could sing, but people didn't know that until we pulled it out, and people walk away going, my gosh, she's a great singer. So we're developing the moments, and here's where the marketing comes. People buy moments. They don't buy songs. If you make people laugh, cry, heartbeat faster, jump up and down, think, just experience different emotions, they will run back to the table to buy those moments. Now, they'll say it this way, where's that song? But here's what they're saying. Where's that song that made me feel that way? Because I want to feel that way again. But if you don't create those moments, or they happen by accident, and everyone listening to me has experienced that too, where, the planets have aligned, the spirit has fallen, you can actually hear the monitors, and it's magical. And we've had this love fest, and we sell merch like crazy, and for some reason it all worked. Well, here's the problem. You don't know why it happened. You don't know why it just happened. It was an accident. Well, you can be intentional about creating those moments and make those moments work every single night, and your merch will go through the roof. I mean, even if they don't go up 600%, what if they went up 50%? What if they went up 200%? But generally speaking, they double or more when we work with an artist. So those are the 4 areas that I work on: the planning, getting the vision, the form, the dealing with the emotional, mental, psychological things we go through when we're on stage so we can actually connect with an audience emotionally, the visual presentation of it. Most people think that's all we do. That's probably 20% or 30% of what we do. We rearrange the songs in rehearsal. I just spent 7 hours 2 days ago with a young artist, and I spent 7 hours rearranging 4 songs. And we spent 20 minutes on the visual part of it. We had to find those moments within the song. And once you've then created the song anew, in a sense, with the rearrangement, then you got to look and go, now what should this look like? How do we keep the integrity of this? Oh my gosh, this one's rocking. You need to run to the side of the stage and deliver that solo because it's screaming to be a massive solo here. You know, we're giving you 4 passes instead of 2. So go somewhere. Don't stand behind your pedal all freaking night. So there you go.
Absolutely. You know, you are. I've heard of your reputation as being a miracle worker. You know, but I've got to tell you, you performed a miracle on my show. You have kept me silent for 20 minutes. You know, I mean, I love to talk, but I got to tell you, man, I just lost myself, and I forgot that I was hosting a show right now. It was great. I'll tell you what. I have actually got Neil from Only Sky Artist. He's waiting on deck in Chicago right now to give his tip of the week. So I'll tell you what, we're going to take a short break. We're going to listen to what Neil has to say, and when we come back, we're running short on time, but I really would like you to spend a few moments on talking about your tour support because that just sounds absolutely incredible. Would that be cool?
Perfect.
Excellent. Okay, Neil, take it away.
Are you actively collecting email addresses at shows? And by active, I don't mean tossing a clipboard on a table and hoping someone magically signs up. To get more signups, announce your email list during the show. Pass out download cards. Have a laptop or iPad at the show for people to sign up on the spot. Talk with fans one-on-one after the show. Each show, your goal should be to get more email signups than the last show. Email signups is a number you should track just like ticket or merch sales. It's that important. This tip was brought to you by Only Sky Artists, the creators of Music Fan Attractor. To find even more out-of-the-box ideas like this, head on over to onlyskyartist.com/tips. There you will find the 7 biggest traps musicians fall into when marketing their music online. That's onlyskyartist.com/tips. And now, back to Billy.
All right. Well, thanks, Neil. As always, great information from Only Sky Artists. We are here talking with Tom Jackson, and who has performed a miracle. He's got me down to less than maybe 1 or 2 minutes worth of words all day today. And Tom, you were telling me on the break there that you'd like to share a story before we get into talking about tour support. So I'm all ears. Let's hear it, man.
Well, actually, it's about tour support.
Okay.
So ask me about tour support.
Okay, well, let me do that then. Tom, you have a side job that you're doing. You say your main job is, of course, the performance direction or, what you do, the thing we talked about for the last 30 minutes, but creating moments. But you also have a side job, and it's tour support. And I heard about this on another show and got really excited about it, and I wanted to know more. So I'm hoping to, now that I've got you all to myself, you can share that with me and my listeners.
Sure. For about 20 years now, I've worked with different organizations that partner with artists on tour support. I got really excited because this was about 2 things. This is a win-win. This is about helping, children, women, AIDS orphans, digging wells, multiple things that these charities do, and they're awesome organizations, and helping the artists generate revenue so they can stay out there and keep at it. So to me, when I was approached by this about 20 years ago to help find artists for these organizations, it really, in some ways, it was a no-brainer. I was really busy at the time, didn't think I had time to do it, but I'm so glad I did it now because We've raised over $2 billion for these organizations and given over $110 million to artists. And it's a win-win situation. And so here's what it is. The artist somewhere in there, obviously we would have to hook up as artist and my team and find out about what you do. And you can access that through my website at onstagesuccess.com. Just go to tour support and fill out an application. But and most people are totally fine to do it. There's very little qualifications except you got to be gigging and be a halfway decent human being. To do this, you probably wouldn't be if you didn't want to, do the tour support. But here's what it is. So you stand on stage somewhere in your concert, your show, and you give a appeal like this. This is what I'm going to give. I'm going to be in New York in a couple of weeks, and this is really what I'm going to say to the audience. A few years ago, my family and I, when my kids were young, we sent a Christmas card overseas to our sponsored child. I kind of tore it, and I can't remember why, but I wrapped it in a rubber band. And maybe a month later, we got a letter back from the child, and it's, the adult that was helping that child. And the letter said something like this: "Thank you so much for the Christmas card and for thinking of us. He really, really loves the toy, by the way, plays with it all the time that you sent." And we're like, wait, what toy? What toy was that? And then we realized it was the rubber band. So I ask you, and I say this to every audience when I tell this story, how would your kids feel if you had kids, if you gave them a rubber band for Christmas? That was their gift. Well, they'd be incredulous. And then when I'm talking to young people, I say, how would you feel if your parents gave you a rubber band? Well, that's the kind of world these people live in, and you can make a difference with, health care, food, clothing, water, education, for $28 to $35 a month, depending on what organization, you can make a massive difference in their lives. And so sponsor a child tonight, and here's how you do it. You go to the back table, you pick a child that you like, from the country you like, and, give us your credit card number. And I'll tell you what, tonight, if you decide or trying to decide between buying our CD and sponsoring a child, sponsor a child, and I'll give you my CD because it means that much to me. And so thank you very much. And on with the show. And I wrap it around a song. One of the tours we were just on, Luke Bryan, Thompson Square tour, they wrapped it around a song called Glass. There's multiple ways to do what we call the appeal, but that's the way I do mine. And every night, a certain amount of people respond to that 90 seconds, which I just did. And for every sponsored child, organizations, depending on which organization, I work with 8 of them now, they'll give you between $75 and $100 for every sponsored child. And I've got, legitimately, over the years, I've had over 600 indies do this, and they make anywhere from, for those that just do it very casually on the side once every 3 months, which is, they're not that committed to it, they'll still make an extra $500, $800 a year. For those that are committed, I've actually got artists that are making 50, 60, 70,000 extra a year. Usually you fall in the middle there between those two, but it's a legitimate form of revenue for the artist. And at the same time, one of the things that indies don't have is they don't have a big organization behind them, like a record label. Everyone's looking for that, or, a place to call home. What is awesome about these charities is some of them do retreats where the artists come together. Some of them even will, if the artist is really, really committed to it and getting a lot of kids sponsored, they'll actually pay for a couple days with me. A certain amount of money set aside every year for acquisition. In other words, they've got to tell somebody about these kids and how to sponsor a child, either through radio, print, TV, internet, or the artist. And we believe, these organizations believe that, labor is worthy of their wages. So if you're out there, touring, playing shows, doing the travel, sending out your email to get people out to the show, blah, blah, all the work that goes into developing some sort of an audience and a tour, you deserve to be paid for it because people are hearing about that charity. And it's totally responsibly done. In fact, here's how the numbers play out if this makes any sense for anybody. I'm going to give you, let's say I give you $75 for every sponsored child. That sponsored child, the person that's sponsoring that child will sponsor that child for years to the tune of we figured about $1,750. So I'm giving you $75, but in the end, you're giving me someone who's going to stay with that company and give me $1,750. That is an amazing deal for any organization. Any organization. The money is responsibly spent. And the beautiful part about sponsored children, the reason we do a monthly thing is because now we can do planning. When the tsunami hit, the real big one, not the Japan one, a few years ago.
The Sri Lanka one?
Yeah. Country music and Christian music in Nashville got together and made a big hoopla about we're doing a big, event. And so they raised $50,000 and it was all over the news. It's a yippee. And I thought to myself, if at $1,750, all that was is about less than 30 sponsors. 30 sponsors is $50,000. So that if they would have got 60 kids sponsored, they would have raised twice the amount of money of that. So the point is, it's money well spent. You can plan, if you're an organization, to build schools, hospitals, dig wells, because you know that every month a certain amount of money is coming in from X amount of sponsors for that community. Instead of just a one-time gift where you go, I hope we get enough money to build something, you can responsibly, if you as an artist knew you had $3,000, $5,000 a month coming in every month, wouldn't that change the way you book yourself? Wouldn't that change the way you plan your routing? Wouldn't that change the way you could get more done?
Yeah,
and
it would change everything. Absolutely.
It would. And so that's how these organizations look at sponsorship, and it's how they raise revenue. So in a sense, that's it. You walk out on stage, you get kids sponsored. It doesn't have to be a downer. It's an awesome organization. All 7, 8, actually I work with 8, one in Canada. And a lot of artists are doing it. So,
wow. Well, Tom, you've actually did not just one, but actually 2 wonderful podcasts in one show for us. It was incredible. I was like, hey. Wow. So, all right. So how do we reach you? And if there's any other products you want to talk about, just let us know how we can reach you, where you are, and what's going on. Because I know people are going to have a lot of questions that they're going to want to ask.
Well, the email address that we get our stuff at is info@tomjacksonproductions.com, info@tomjacksonproductions.com. Our office number is 615-591-0910, 615-591-0910. We have many products. My first recommendation is to buy the book. It's expensive because it's kind of set up like a college book, but it'll roto-rooter your show. It'll change the way you look at what you're doing. It's Tom Jackson's Live Music Method, and you can get it online at onstagesuccess.com. onstagesuccess.com. I mean, if you've got some decent investment money into your show, I would buy the book, and then I got a DVD series called All Roads Lead to the Stage. It's 7 DVDs and 4-camera shoot, a few years ago, and it gives the principles. You can see a lot of them. You put the combination of the DVDs and the book together, and you're well on your way. But I've got multiple ways here, and you could, cruise the website, which is onstagesuccess.com. We're putting together. I got a backstage area. It's $18 a month, where there's hundreds of videos and blogs, both by me and my associate producers. I've trained 2 people to do this. I've got somebody. We're right in the. How do I put this? We're right in the beginning stages of putting together an academy for live music, to train people to do what I do, and at the same time to help artists. And it's going to be an online and hands-on curriculum, a combination of both. So we've got multiple ways to try and help people learn how to do a better show, and just simply get better. And obviously, you generate more revenue, you get more gigs. It's a win-win situation. I've never seen, and this sounds arrogant, but it's not intended to. I've never seen it not work when someone applies themselves. I've never seen it not work.
It's not bragging if it's true, my friend.
No, and I don't know. There's nowhere else that I know of that this material is. There's people that say they do what I do, but I've watched them, and what they do is they major in the minors. And something so simple as putting a show on. I guess let me close with this. The last thought is, I know a lot of you think you could pick up a couple tips. Well, first of all, that's insulting, because I've spent 22 years working on this. This is not tips. This is about a whole new way to think about your show. And the problem with us musicians on stage is this. We're on stage. This is the thing I run across, Billy, all the time. We're on stage. It's our music. There are people. There may be small fan base, but they're cheering for us. They tell us when we get off the stage, we rock. Our adrenaline's pumping. How couldn't it be good? It's us.
Right.
But the truth is, your audience is not you. So they've sat out in that place or watched in that place 1,000. If you really think about it in life, they've been an audience thousands and thousands of times. If you consider school, concerts, theater, church, on and on and on and on. Their adrenaline isn't pumping. It's not them on stage. So how do we make that emotional connection? Sometimes I feel like I'm a marriage counselor, and you're the husband, or vice versa, and the audience is the wife. You may love them and you may know that this is awesome, but they've got to know it. If they don't know it, if you're sending the wrong signals or haven't arranged the songs right or are not presenting it in a way that they get it, you're going to be frustrated, and they're not going to become a fan, and you're going to miss out on a golden opportunity for your career night after night after night. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Fantastic. Tom, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I'm sure that my listeners, fans, followers would love to thank you too, so I'll do it for them. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Great. Well, it is time to say goodbye now. Bye, everybody. Say goodbye, Tom.
Goodbye, Tom.
See you soon.